Why your mobility work is so important for your knees. A strong and healthy knee functions like a well-oiled machine, allowing the human body to perform high-intensity activities like jumping, hiking, running, and so much more without pain. Now, unfortunately, if you are watching me on here, it's more likely that your knees feel more like a rusty old farm tractor and you actually shudder at the thought of jumping, running, or hiking because you can almost feel the pain already. Now, most people will experience some form of knee pain in their lives, and as you know firsthand, many will find it eventually becomes debilitating, affecting your work, your physical activities, or your hobbies. Now, both disease and injury can affect the knee joints, causing loss of function, pain, and weakness of the joint. Most people can get away with poor mobility and movement for a finite amount of time until your body has just had enough. And that's when the pain starts to kick in and you start searching for solutions to prevent an injury that could literally stop you in your tracks if it hasn't already. In the DIY Knee Revival Part 1 PDF that I sent you recently, you'll see a section called Mobility and Release Exercises. And it may just look like a whole bunch of stretches, foam rolling, and trigger ball exercises to you right now, but these movements are going to seemingly perform miracles for your knees. Now, in the next few minutes, you're about to learn how and why these movements are so powerful against knee pain. So what do I actually mean when I'm talking about mobility? You've probably heard the words flexibility and mobility used interchangeably, but while both are really important to be limber, agile, and pain-free, they're actually quite different. But most people know what flexibility is, but often people confuse this with mobility. What mobility is, it's an umbrella term for many elements that contribute to a joint's movement with full range of motion. So, including the restricted muscle tissue, the joints, the joint capsules, your motor control of those joints, and your soft tissue. So really, flexibility is just part of a joint's mobility. So now that you understand what mobility is, let's check out the top 10 most incredible things that doing your mobility work is going to do for you. First up, we are looking at pain reduction. So arguably the best reason for doing your mobility work is that knee pain is significantly reduced after performing your mobility. Now, I know you don't need me to tell you that decreasing pain is going to be a great thing, but it has a few other benefits that you may not be aware of. Reducing pain gives you an incredible window of opportunity to do a few different things. So firstly, you're going to be able to normalize and retrain your movement patterns that have become compromised for one reason or another. You're also going to be able to perform more of your prescribed exercises before you need to stop because the pain's getting too much and too uncomfortable. And you're also going to be able to increase your level of functional activities throughout the day. So your activities of daily living, all those things that you need to do every day, not just those exercises and recreational activities. All of these things promote long-term functional and beneficial physiological changes to your body. Now, what if I told you that doing your mobility work could make every activity in your life a little bit easier, or a lot easier for some of you? We know that keeping joints mobile helps to keep them healthy, decreases pain, and reduces the risk of injury. Optimal flexibility and mobility allow you to place your body in the safest, most advantageous position for utilizing your strength. If you have strength but no mobility, you're working against the pull of your muscles and you're moving less efficiently through life. You can kind of imagine life without doing mobility work like driving a car around with the handbrake on all the time. Once you realize it's on, you take it off and holy hell, it is an absolute massive difference. You didn't realize that it was so bad while you had it on there, but now that you've taken it off, you can see the difference. I absolutely love the little moments after I finish up doing a series of mobility drills with a new patient, right? When I get them up to walk around and see how they feel and get to see how the mobility work has completely changed how they experience the different sensations in their body. Their face is absolutely priceless. The grin on their face and the sheer amazement that the few little things that we just did, those little exercises, could have such a significant impact on the way that they feel, and so quickly. You'll know the feeling as well as soon as you get stuck into doing these exercises on your own as part of this course. Another incredible reason to be doing your mobility work is because when you do it, overactive muscles get inhibited. Over time, as certain muscles are overworked, connective tissues like fascia and tendons become very tight and restricted. Now this stiffness or tightness ends up decreasing your range of motion, which then decreases your strength and your resistance to injuries and basic functionality. When you're performing your mobility and your release work, you're inhibiting those overactive muscles from working. And if you haven't already, you'll soon find out that this section can be quite a bit uncomfortable, especially the first few weeks. Now this discomfort is a good thing, believe it or not. At the neural level, the brain detects the discomfort as you're rolling and triggering and stretching and releasing the tight muscles. It then decreases the neural activity to those particular muscles or areas. This down-regulation of overactive muscles is incredibly useful later on when we get into activating the correct muscles and retraining your movement patterns. So by decreasing the neural activity to the tight muscles that are constantly forced to overwork, it gives the other weaker muscles an opportunity to wake up and start working as hard as they should for you. Now we're going to have to help them along, but we can get it done. Your mobility exercises will also have the amazing effect of correcting your compensatory movement patterns. Even if your mobility is restricted, your body is still going to do everything you need it to do, up to a point. With restricted mobility though, you aren't able to do the movements correctly and your body has to find another way to make it happen, which it will, and it's at the cost of structural integrity and your knee's longevity. The stability of your knee is often affected by the joints of the lumbar spine, the hip and the ankle. A problem or injury in one joint often creates compensations in both the adjacent and distant joints. Having treated thousands of painful knees over the years, I can tell you that it's rare that the knee itself is the problem. It may be where the pain and symptoms present, but it may not be where the dysfunction is. It's almost always a problem with the hip or the ankle, or a combination of both that's causing the knee to experience prolonged excessive loads, which eventually leads to knee dysfunction, pain, and eventually structural damage. Think like knee replacements, advanced arthritic conditions, or severe pain. Now sometimes your knee dysfunction may be due to an acute or traumatic injury, so a car crash, say you've got your knee bent and you hit the dashboard in a car accident, bang, big trauma there, it's going to be uncomfortable, cause some damage. Your brain is going to make sure you do not load that knee and it's going to send the load somewhere else, most likely to your other knee. It's going to get really overworked, tight, all those muscles are going to tighten up, and look, your good knee is now a bad knee with the other bad knee. Next up, let's talk about synovial fluid. What the hell is synovial fluid? Look, it sounds like a bit of a mouthful, but all it is, it's a fluid that's naturally occurring in most of the joints in our bodies. It acts as a natural lubricant and reduces friction in a healthy knee to nearly zero. This fluid in our joints helps them to glide freely, is carried into and around the working joints by movement, right? So moving through a full range of motion eventually spreads the synovial fluid all over the surfaces of the joint, and it delivers a crucial flood of nutrients which aids in the repair of that joint. So a well lubricated joint is far more comfortable for you, and it will only improve many aspects of your daily movements. One of the best things about doing your mobility work throughout this course is the fact that you're going to be able to undo years of poor posture. These days, most people have a sedentary day job. You know, it requires them to sit in front of a computer screen for hours. You may think that it's harmless, but it's really not. And with all the research that's coming out and the amount that it's being talked about, you probably know that by now. Now, your body was built to be mobile. Long hours in a seated position will seriously tighten tissues in your hips, your core, and your legs, amongst other things. Your muscles will shorten and your posture will steadily worsen, while other muscles become overstretched, inhibited, and weak. All of these factors coupled together are extremely detrimental to your mobility. Do it for years on end and you really are lining up for titanium knees, a much lighter wallet, but at least they're going to be professionally installed by an orthopedic surgeon, hopefully. But this is why including mobility work into your daily training regimen is critical in fixing your knee problems and, more importantly, preventing further issues down the track. Some of you going through this DIY knee revival are going to be really interested in the fact that mobility work can give you massive performance benefits. Some of you guys won't care so much, but keep listening because it will apply to you anyway. Mobility plays a huge role in improving your movement quality and your strength. So you'll be stronger and safer lifting a weight through a range of motion if your body can comfortably achieve that position. So this doesn't just apply to the gym. This applies to your grocery shopping, moving house, or lifting heavy children. You'll enjoy far better athletic performance because your body will be able to perform at a higher level for longer periods without fatigue or pain. Now, you're far better off when your body can function optimally and you aren't having to compensate for poor mechanics and movement inefficiencies. Believe it or not, mobility is going to help increase your muscle growth. A limited range of motion translates to limited muscle growth. Having optimal mobility and movement lets you achieve better positions through full ranges of motion, which will allow you to be more efficient, work harder, and get better results faster. Even if you aren't aspiring to become a huge bodybuilder, more strength means that you have more stability, more stamina, better motor control, while significantly reducing knee pain and further risk of injury. Mobility is one of these things that is going to be essential in helping you to handle the unexpected. Everyone knows someone that's injured their back by doing something seemingly easy like reaching into the car to pick up a light bag of groceries, sneezing, or maybe even just coughing. It's even more surprising when it's someone who's really fit and strong and may look massive. They might have super strong muscles from doing squats and bench presses and spending lots of time at the gym, but they crumble when their body isn't in that typical position. They have very poor mobility. Think of those bodybuilders that are so big that you know they're not going to be able to go and scratch their back. What is the point of being so big and so strong if you cannot use it? Life is full of unexpected and unpredictable moments. We all know that, we've all experienced them. You don't have time to do a quick warm-up before you trip over, or if you're diving to catch your dropping phone before the screen shatters into a million little pieces, or you're saving your kid from imminent danger. Without mobility, all of these unexpected things have the huge potential to cause injury, but with mobility and strength through that full range, you can handle it without issue. If your range of motion or mobility is restricted, an injury is far more likely to happen. And this leads us nicely into the fact that mobility is going to reduce your injury risk. Nothing will stop your training progress or suck the enjoyment out of an activity like an impingement or a strain that prevents you from your sport, your hobbies, or your training. Just doing 10 to 15 minutes of targeted mobility warm-up work every day can prevent a devastating injury like a torn meniscus, a slipped disc, an ACL rupture, or a torn muscle. That will keep you out of action and in a lot of pain for months. So how does your mobility work actually help with this? Let's consider the deadlift, right? And for those of you guys who just switched off because I don't deadlift or I don't squat, this is more critical for you because guess what? Sitting down on your toilet, on your couch, any chair or any bed, you're doing a squat. Bending down to pick up your kid, your grandkid, or a bag of groceries ultimately is a deadlift. It's just hidden because you aren't in a gym and you're not calling it a deadlift. So in order to achieve the optimal deadlift position, you need flexible hips and mobility in several other joints and muscles, right? So tight hip flexors, for example, will limit your hip motion, forcing you to load your lower back. When you have inflexible hips, neighboring joints that can't handle so much weight at that angle, like say your vulnerable lower back and your knees, they're gonna have to pick up some of the strain. A day later, that extra lower back work may just feel like a little soreness in your lumbar spine. But keep lifting, keep pushing through like that, and the chances are pretty high that you'll eventually pay the price, whether from another tight deadlift or just bending down to lift your kid off the floor after they've lost another fight with gravity. If you do mobility work regularly though, you'll improve that range of motion, you'll have looser hips, more flexible tissues around the joints, and your body can use your much more efficient powerhouse to lift that weight off the floor instead. Alright, I think I've banged on long enough about how good mobility is, why you should be doing it, how it's going to help, and the fact that you should be doing it regularly. Some people shy away from, rush through, or completely skip mobility work because it can be pretty uncomfortable or downright hurt. Unfortunately, if it is painful, this is most likely a sign that you need to do way more of it. With so many positive outcomes from a seemingly small part of your program, it's an area where you have the opportunity to make massive improvements for very little effort. You can repair years of damage doing mobility work as part of a well-balanced program. Boiled down to the basics, guys, mobility helps our bodies function optimally, the way they should. It benefits our everyday movements, it helps correct our muscular imbalances, it betters our posture, helps prevent injuries, especially overuse injuries, which mostly the people that I see come through because of overuse injuries. It allows you to move more efficiently, and it gives you a better range of motion during your workouts, which means you're going to get better results for your efforts. Getting rid of your knee pain is the tip of the iceberg with what's possible with a regular, well-designed mobility program. So start off slowly, take your time, and remember how tight and stiff everything is right now, because in a few weeks you'll be far more supple and your knee pain will be significantly reduced. So if you've got any questions, feel free to send me an email. You can do that by replying to one of the ones that I've sent you. So guys, if you haven't done your mobility yet today, go and do it. It always seems impossible until it's done. Go and do it.